Yeah,
I
but
will
we'll
put
leave
it off.
that for now when we are start. Yeah, we start now. Yeah, it's live from Singapore, but coming from Mama G's phone.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so let's get started with we'll read my wish, right? So Ashok, you want to read?
Yes. Am I audible?
Go ahead.
There's a lot of rain behind, but anyway, that's Baba's
It's not
blessing. Rain.
audible. It sounds
Right,
good.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Avatar, Meher Baba ki jai. My wish. The lover has to keep the wish of the beloved. My wish for my lovers is as follows. Do not shirk your responsibilities. Attend faithfully to your worldly duties, but always keep at the back of your mind that all this is Baba's. When you feel happy, think, Baba wants me to be happy. When you suffer, think, Baba wants me to suffer. Be resigned to every situation and think honestly and sincerely. Baba has placed me in this situation. With the understanding that Baba is in everyone, try to help and serve others. I say with divine authority to each and all that whosoever takes my name at the time of breathing his last comes to me. So do not forget to remember me in your last moments. Unless you start remembering me from now on, it will be difficult to remember me when your end approaches. You should start practicing from now on. Even if you take my name only once every day, you will not forget to remember me in your dying moments. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Thank you.
Hello.
And yeah, Ravi.
Yeah, yesterday we had a very interesting discussion about Baba talked about the death in the lesson humanity. That Mamaji, myself, and who else? Soma and Sherry, and sometimes who else? Mamaji comes to that. Yeah, we attend, and we were reading on the death. It was very interesting, and I kept on thinking about death. I am planning to prepare a presentation on the death. So when I am ready, maybe I will present it to our group also one of these
Great.
days.
Great. The real death and the false death, or only the false death, or
Whatever, everything connected with the death, whatever we know.
okay, okay.
Without
Very
knowledge, how do we feel? With the knowledge, how do we feel?
good.
All those things. I have some thoughts. I want to collect some thoughts and put together on a presentation.
Very nice. Look forward. So we did. Maybe Baba wanted it that way. We did 2 readings of the divine truth. Then we did. I mean the divine theme. Then we did a 3rd reading uninterrupted of the divine theme yesterday. That's section C of part 4 of the types of meditation. And from there, I hope everybody is in sync with what's going on in Telegram. We discussed how divine theme itself got refined in further editions, one in the booklet and then in the supplement in God Speaks. So those of you wishing to use the technique described by Baba and want a replacement of the text for section C, you know where to go. Just go to the supplement, right? So that's an input from yesterday, and then from there we go to the next chapter, which is part 5, specialized meditations that are personal. Any other comments or questions before I start? No. So let's get started. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. My screen is already shared. Okay. Kinds of specialized meditation. It was seen in part 3 that specialized meditation is of 3 kinds. Meditation concerned with objects of experience, meditation concerned with subject of experience, and meditation concerned with mental operations. These three kinds of meditation are mostly intertwined with each other: the subject of experience, the objects of experience, and the different mental operations that arise as a result of their interaction are all inextricably interwoven. So, these three kinds of meditation are not sharply defined or exclusive, but often overlap each other. Thus, meditation concerned with the objects of experience may often refer to the subject of experience and also to the diverse mental operations involved in it. Meditation concerned with the subject of experience may often involve reference to the diverse mental operations and the objects to which these mental operations are directed. And meditation concerned with the diverse mental operations may often involve reference to both the subject and the objects of experience. Yet, each kind of meditation, in a way, remains distinct because in some predominating factor. Yet each kind of meditation, in a way, remains distinct because of some predominating factor, one of the three. Hence, the first kind of meditation remains predominantly concerned with the objects of experience, the second kind with the subject of experience, and the third kind with the diverse mental operations. Then we have a table. The table is table of enumerative classification of the forms of specialized meditation. There is A, B, which is A, B, and is there no C? Okay. Oh, okay. There is, somebody help me here. So is there supposed to be a C here? Or B has both 8 through 12?
That's it.
Anyway,
That's
let
it.
me just.
Yeah, I think there's supposed to be C. Maybe it's a typo because
12,
there's no line between A and B.
Yeah, I think
that's about it, right? 12.
10, 11, 12
okay.
should
So
be
what's
C.
the significance of A and B? And where does it split exactly? Which meditations are, so is it still 7 is A and 8 through 12 is B? Anyway, maybe I hope it's explained below. Let's just quickly read this and then we go down, right? So first
Object
set
of
1 to 4. Yeah, Ravi?
Object of experience are connected with 1 through, if you just raise the table. See,
7,
he,
yeah.
he gave these objects of meditation concerned with the objects of experience, 1 through 7, and up to 4, it is forms of personal meditation.
Personal.
And 5 to 12, I think, impersonal meditation. But he still further divided meditation concerned with the subject of experience, 8 and 9. Meditation concerned with mental operations, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah, so if you look at the first 2 paras of this chapter, he talked about the primary 3 classifications, which are in column 2 here, this column, right? Basically, this column. So I was just wondering if there's a typo there. We don't know. We'll find out. So anyway, so I'll just read the types of meditation here. So meditation concerned with the objects of experience, as Ravi said just now, is 1 through 7. In that, 4 are personal meditation, meditation on the divine qualities of a master, concentration on the form of a master, meditation of the heart, and meditation of action. Then you have 3 impersonal meditation, yet concerned with objects of experience, meditation regarding the numerous forms of manifested life, meditation regarding one's own body, meditation on the formless and infinite aspect of God. With that, we go to meditation concerned with the subject of experience, quest for the agent of action. That's one type. Another is considering oneself as witness. Then we go to the last section, which is mental operations, writing down thoughts, watching mental operations, and making the mind blank. So that's the table. Let's now continue reading. Table of enumerative classification. These three kinds of meditation can each be further subdivided into numerous specific forms of meditation according to the content of the meditation and the manner in which it is conducted. Out of these numerous forms of specialized meditation, only those that are representative or important need particular mention. Thus, 12 forms of specialized meditation are given in the table of enumerative classification. Personal and impersonal meditation. It should be noted that of these 12 forms of specialized meditation, the first 4 are forms of personal meditation and the remaining 8 are forms of impersonal meditation. Meditation is personal when it is concerned with a person, and meditation is impersonal when it is concerned with aspects of human personality or something that falls outside the range of human personality as it is usually understood. The forms of specialized meditation that are personal will be explained individually in this part, and the forms of specialized meditation that are impersonal will be explained individually in part 6. Special advantages of personal meditation. Personal meditation has some clear advantages over impersonal meditation. For beginners, personal meditation is easy and attended with joy, while impersonal meditation is often found dry and difficult unless one has a special aptitude for it. Moreover, forms of impersonal meditation are mostly disciplines for the mind or the intellect, whereas the forms of personal meditation are not only disciplines for the mind or the intellect, but also draw out the heart. In spiritual perfection, the mind and the heart have to be fully developed and balanced. Therefore, personal meditation, which helps the development and balancing of the mind and heart, has special importance. Impersonal meditation is especially fruitful and effective when the aspirant has been duly prepared through forms of personal meditation. Personal meditation is directed towards those who are spiritually perfect. Just as a man who admires the character of Napoleon and constantly thinks about him has a tendency to become like him, an aspirant who admires one who is spiritually perfect and constantly thinks about him has a tendency to become spiritually perfect. A suitable object for personal meditation is a living or past perfect master or the avatar. The subtitle is Meditation on the Spiritually Perfect. It is important that the object of meditation be spiritually perfect. If the person selected for meditation happens to be spiritually imperfect, there is every chance of his frailties percolating into the mind of the aspirant who meditates upon him. If the person selected for meditation is spiritually perfect, however, the aspirant has taken to a safe and sure path. Meditation on the divine qualities of the master. I think this is the first one, right, on the table? Yes. So, personal meditation often begins with the admiration an aspirant feels spontaneously for some divine quality that he sees in a master. By allowing the mind to dwell upon the divine qualities expressed in the life of the master, the aspirant imbibes them into his own being. Ultimately, the master is beyond all qualities, good and bad. He is not bound by them. The qualities he exhibits while interacting with life around him are all different aspects of divinity in action, and the expression of divinity through these qualities becomes a medium for helping those who are appreciatively responsive to them. Appreciation of the divinity perceived in the master gives rise to forms of meditation in which the aspirant constantly and strenuously thinks of the master as being an embodiment of qualities like universal love or complete detachment, egolessness or steadfastness, infinite knowledge or selfless action. Sometimes the mind may dwell upon such separate qualities or may dwell upon combined qualities that reveal their interrelatedness. This form of meditation is very valuable when it is spontaneous. It then leads to a greater understanding of the master and gradually remolds the aspirant into a likeness of the master thus contributing towards his self-preparation for the realization of the truth.
May I interrupt here?
Sure, I wanted to pause as well.
In this paragraph, there are certain characteristics which are put together by Baba. What is the significance of that? Qualities like universal love or complete detachment, egolessness or steadfastness, infinite knowledge or selfless action. So, can we have some explanation why this clustering together of these two entities together? Or it just a textual format, that's all.
No, yeah, it could be either of the two, but the umbrella statement is here, right?
Because
Ultimately, the masters.
next sentence, there is a connection here.
Mhm.
The form of meditation is very valuable when it is spontaneous. It then leads to a greater understanding of the master and gradually remolds the aspirant into a likeness of the master, thus contributing towards his self-preparation for realization of truth. Sometimes the mind may dwell upon such separate qualities or may dwell upon combined qualities that reveal their interrelatedness. So, what is the significance of that?
Anybody wants to comment on that?
Jay Baba, can you repeat that, because somebody called me, so I didn't hear the question. Can you repeat the question, please?
In this
Yeah,
paragraph, there is a combination of two aspects together. And next sentence says that combined qualities that reveal their interrelatedness. So what is the interrelatedness in this combination which is shown there, and what is its importance?
Anybody else? Comma went back.
Simpler words.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
In simpler words, I think the comparison or interrelation between complete detachment, egolessness, steadfastness, infinite knowledge, or selfless action. That's the point, right?
Yes, that why two things are combined together, and what is the relationship between them? I don't get
If
that.
you are egoless, will you be having universal love? Is the question. Perhaps if you have complete detachment, will that mean that you are universally loving everybody?
So these are the
Steadfastness, I don't.
qualities of the master, right? We are meditating on a master
Right.
of his qualities,
Mhm.
of the master's qualities, universal love, a complete detachment.
Eventually,
egolessness.
eventually you want to walk on that path for your own preparation as well. Master is egoless, but we also want to be egoless. Master has universal love, and Baba also tells disciples to have universal love. So it's the path on which you want to walk eventually for your own preparation. I don't know whether you will ever be perfect or not, depending on the person or the soul. But those are footsteps on which you're trying to meditate upon and walk yourself, is what I thought. Sorry if I'm not making sense.
I mean, for example, for us, Baba is there. Baba has got all these qualities. He shows love. He has egolessness. He has detachment. And whereas we don't have those things, as Sunilji said, and that is why we are putting Baba up on the stage on pedestal, and then we meditate on him because he's the God incarnate. These are some of the attributes we are focusing on, either separately or individually or together.
Okay.
So I think the picking point is on the interrelatedness.
Yeah,
Right? So
that was the
I think that's
question.
where Mama is going.
Right.
Jay Baba, to add on to what Sunil said, see again semantics of the English language. Okay, everything is interrelated. Now, again coming back to the two realities. The first one is real existence and real love. There we have seen different attributes of so-called God. God, which is again an acronym, game of duality. Do we know what God is? No. Do we know what soul is? No. Do we know what self is? No. We can just imagine, because unless you reach self-realization, then probably we know about Maya, God, truth, divine love, and so on. So I think that here, the embodiment of qualities like universal love. So I think that, as Ravi also pointed out, that human qualities is basically individual love. We have, human love, which is very, basic. We have different kinds of love, right? Depending on the degree of consciousness or sanskaras of a particular individual, whether that person is just into, the human love, which is like very Western based, hello, I love you, all the time type of thing. So the interesting thing out here is, I think it's a comparison between the individual love and the universal love of a perfect master. What is Baba? Baba is the supreme Sadguru, the first drop soul who became God realized, and Avatar is God in human form. So the universal love is compared with our individual human love. Complete detachment is also only possible when you become perfect, which is becoming self-realized, whether you're Majzup or whether you're, any of those four different categories in the 56 God realized souls. So there is a difference between detachment and indifference. We know that. Vivek and Vairagya, very important word, discrimination and dispassion. And then when you look at egolessness or steadfastness, absolutely, we are working on manonash. You know, it is not about. I'm not saying it is not about love. Love is already latent. What we are doing, it is trying to dissolve our ego consciousness. So egolessness is basically an attribute of the divine. That is a perfect master. Steadfastness. This is a quality that Baba says under any circumstances, you should be cheerful, enthusiastic, have contentment, so on and so forth. Infinite knowledge or selfless action. Of course, infinite knowledge is an attribute of Satchitananda, right? Power, knowledge, bliss. Selfless action. Again, this is an attribute of a karma yogi. A real karma yogi would be a perfect master because he is always perfect in everything we do. So in the chapter on perfection, we have noticed there is something called material perfection and spiritual perfection. So the embodiment of qualities out here is talking about the spiritual perfection of a perfect master. And what is being communicated out here, that we are also that, because we are the drop soul, the self, and our natural, our original quality is those things. We are just going through this process of removing this cancer called the thinking mind ego disease and becoming that drop soul or self, which has all these attributes or qualities. So that is why this form of meditation is very valuable. When it is spontaneous, it then leads to a greater understanding of the master and gradually remolds the aspirant into a likeness of the master, thus contributing towards his self preparation for the realization of the truth. So in one way, we can look at, typically when we hero worship, like a sportsman, Michael Jordan, or like we are hero worshipping Rajat Gupta, wow, like, what a guy, head of McKinsey and so on. But suddenly, you realize these things doesn't matter whether you're Bezos or Branson or whatever, because now we know that the only real hero worship that we want to do as Baba lovers is Meher Baba, and he's your own self. That is the beauty, because Baba is always leading it to ourself. Baba is the personal form of God, and our innermost loving self is the impersonal form of God. That is what this whole chapter on meditation is all about, types of meditation. Initially, go through personal meditation. That is why it says personal meditation has some clear advantages over impersonal meditation. For beginners, personal meditation is easy and attended with joy, while impersonal meditation is often found dry and difficult unless one has a special aptitude for it. Moreover, forms of impersonal meditation are mostly disciplines for the mind or the intellect, whereas the forms of meditation, personal meditation, are not only disciplines for the mind or the intellect, but also draw out the heart. So I think this is where the difference between the Occidental and the Oriental thing is, because if you're very scientifically minded, meaning like if you're brought up in a material world where you go to all the Ivy League schools and all that, naturally the conditioning is going to use the mind. But we know that the heart and mind has to work together, and ultimately it's only the heart, because the mind is full of sanskaras. So in spiritual perfection, the mind and the heart have to be fully developed and balanced. So here we again have a confirmation that Baba is saying that it is not just the heart. The mind and heart have to be fully developed and balanced. Therefore, personal meditation, which helps the development and balancing of the mind and heart, has special importance. Impersonal meditation is especially fruitful and effective when the aspirant has been duly prepared through forms of personal meditation. That is why I think by reading Baba's books and watching all the movies, we actually directly or indirectly imbibe those qualities. That is one of the things that Baba mentioned. If you watch my movie, that is also a very good form of meditation, just watching his movie. So we can go on and on here. Jai Baba.
Namaji,
Ah,
are you happy with
Yeah.
the answer?
yes, yes. In a way, it is, say, I went into the combination of those terms, but I think the whole sum we'll have to take it. And one thing is, we need to relate to our preparedness or our capabilities with the, say, qualities of the master and keep moving ahead. That is one way this meditation will help us. If we feel something great about the master in one particular area, then we can reflect upon our weakness there and then try to, say, bridge the gap as much as possible. That is one way of interrelationship that we can build up. So that is also one way I can look at it.
Exactly, Mamaji. And
Jai
I
Baba.
think if you dwell a little deeper, you see, universal love reduces ego. So once you start loving other human beings more, your ego automatically goes down. Steadfastness,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it's interrelated. Of course, you have to be steadfast on any purpose. That Baba also said, be cheerful, like Hama said just now. Knowledge I don't have, so I'm still trying, reading the books and understanding. Selfless action also leads to more love for others, less ego. So there is a lot of interrelation, Mamaji. That was your question, I think.
Yes, yes,
So I think one thing leads to another for sure among all these qualities.
yes. Thank you.
Jai
Thank
Baba.
you.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. So let's continue. The next type is concentration on form of the master. Dwelling upon the qualities of the master often facilitates concentration on the form of the master. In this type of meditation, the aspirant is aware of the spiritual perfection of the master, and he spontaneously fixes his attention upon the form of the master without analyzing his spiritual perfection into any of its component qualities. However, though these qualities are not separately revived in the mind, all that the aspirant may have understood of them through the preparatory meditation concerned with the diverse qualities of the master constitutes the implicit background of such one pointed concentration and contributes towards its efficacy and value. This form of meditation involves complete identification of the master with the spiritual idea. meditation of the heart. Complete identification of the master with the spiritual ideal is responsible for removing such barriers as might exist between the aspirant and the master. This gives rise to the release of unrestrained love for the master and leads to the meditation of the heart, which consists in constant thinking about the master with an uninterrupted flow of limitless love. Such love annihilates the illusion of separateness, which seems to divide the aspirant from the master, and it has in it a spontaneity that is virtually without parallel in other forms of meditation. In its final stages, meditation of the heart is accompanied by unbounded joy and utter forgetfulness of self. Modes of meditation of action. Love for the master leads to increasing identification with the master so that the aspirant desires to live in and for the master and not for his own narrow self. This leads to the meditation of action. The initial modes of the meditation of action usually take the following forms. The aspirant mentally offers the master all that is in him, thus renouncing all that is good or evil in him. This frees him from the good as well as the bad ingredients of the ego and helps him not only in transcending these opposites, but also in finding a lasting and true integration with the master. The second type is the aspirant volunteers himself in the service of the master or his cause. Doing work for the master in the spirit of selfless service is as good as meditation. Third one, the aspirant does not allow the ego to feed upon any of his actions, small or great, good or bad. He does not think, I do this, but on the contrary, systematically develops the thought that through him, the master is really doing all that he does. For example, when he looks, he thinks the master is looking. When he eats, he thinks the master is eating. When he sleeps, he thinks the master is sleeping. When he drives a car, he thinks the master is driving the car. Even when he may happen to do something wrong, he thinks the master is doing this. Thus, he completely relinquishes all agency for his actions, and all that is done by him is brought into direct reference to the master. This automatically and necessarily involves and entails determination of each action in the light of the spiritual ideal as seen in the master. Four forms of personal meditation represent ascending stages. The four forms of personal meditation on the master represent four main ascending stages. The first stage is perceiving the spiritual ideal in the master. Second is concentrating upon master as an embodiment of the spiritual ideal. Third one is loving the master as a manifestation of the spiritual ideal. And fourth one is expressing the spiritual ideal perceived in the master in one's own life. Personal meditation on the master in its different forms ultimately contributes toward the release of the creative life of spiritual fulfillment. Meditation on the master is a meditation on the living ideal and not on the bare conception of perfection. Therefore, it generates that dynamic power that eventually enables the aspirant to bridge the gulf between theory and practice and unify the spiritual ideal with everyday activity in his own life. To live a life inspired and illumined by the spiritual ideal as embodied in the master is the culmination of all the forms of personal meditation. Yeah, so with that, we end this chapter. We can continue and go to part 6. Any comments, summary?
In a nutshell, we can say this, trying to becoming a copycat of the master.
Yeah, yes. clone yourself to the master.
Not an easy task.
Not at all an easy task. And I think I found a reference also to relationship to the the professional working ego, right? So how you try to draw the master into everything, even in your action, is what we can see. Yes,
Mamaji, you can also become a dog of the master,
Yes.
because he loves the master the most, not just the cat. There is
I
a book
could,
written by somebody. Yeah, Dog to God. So it's a Baba, written by a Baba lover. He says, become like a dog of the master. He is a fable kind of a book, actually. So, Jai Baba.
It's the small book that you're talking about, Sanjay?
Yeah, very small book, actually.
Yeah, Rahul
Like
Atrishi.
Yeah, Trishi, correct. Yeah, Jai
Yeah,
Baba.
Rahul Atrishi. Yeah.
Beautiful, yeah.
Remember, Kama, I connected him in connection with that animation stuff. That's the guy.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I remember.
Become like a dog to the master. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
master even if the master kicks the dog, he comes back to him because he loves him so much. Yeah. Jai Baba. Yeah.
Yeah. Baba.
and
Jai
also
Baba.
there are,
Yeah, go ahead. Come on.
No, go ahead. Who wants to finish? I'll conclude.
yes,
Okay,
I
sorry.
have a few points. One is
Sure.
there is a very gradual sort of understanding coming up of the 7 realities. So first thing is the reality, and then comes love, then renunciation. So all this process is also we can put through together in this sort of meditation. So when we idealize the master, then gradually we start loving the master, and as parts of loving, we all do other things: obedience, renunciation, sacrifice for the master or master's ideal towards others, all these things. So it is also, we have to think in those lines also, we can project this sort of a, so reading that 7 realities every time it should give a new insight. I think I got some new ideas now. Thank you. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you, Mamaji. I was thinking on similar lines, how meditation is connected to us. The typical image or perception that we have of meditation is somebody goes into that sadhana mode, close your eyes, dwell on God, love God, whatever, and then come out and then you're yourself. It's like a picnic. But I think it's just not just a picnic, it's more than a picnic, because our preparation starts from thought, words, action in real life, all have to be synchronized. If you dwell upon the quality of universal love in your God or Baba or whoever during your meditation, that eventually has to transfer to some degree to yourself. And that's the real litmus test, not the meditation itself. You could spend 1 hour meditating on Baba's qualities, but you come back and not progressed in yourself, then I don't know how much is the takeaway. So we have to keep checking between meditation and non-meditation modes of ourselves and check our progress on the path.
Yep.
Just a fleeting thought, sorry.
Yeah. Absolutely, Sunilji. And basically, there is a famous ghazal of Jagdish Singh, "मेरे जैसे हो जाओगे जब इश्क तुम्हें हो जाएगा." So we become what we think, So
गा के सुनाओ संजय जी, तब मजा आए.
So whatever you think, you become, actually. So that's even in our common the management talk also, this is what is taught. You should think positive and you become like that. Keep thinking positive, and then if you think about Baba, those qualities will automatically flow to us. And Baba has said, don't worry about your weaknesses. I am the ocean of love. So drown yourself into me, and all your weakness will dissolve into that ocean of love. So that's a very comforting message from Baba. So just keep thinking about him, meditating on him, and that will show the way itself. Actually, Jai Baba.
Yes,
Jai
Kama.
Yeah,
Jai
Come on, go
Baba.
ahead.
To what add on to what Sanjay and Sunil said. For example, what Sanjay said about thoughts. One is the famous Descartes saying, "You are what you think," or even that Dale Carnegie book, The Power of Positive Thinking. But to me, I just want to add on, that is only 1% inspiration, 99% is perspiration. We can think about Baba, but it has to be converted into action of deeds on a moment to moment basis, which is in the waking state of consciousness. When you are awake 16 hours, as Sunil said, it's not like going to the gym, for 1 hour pumping iron and then everything is fine. What happens in the spiritual journey is whether you do puja, whether you meditate, whether you go for a walk and think about Baba, ultimately it has to be converted into action of thoughts, action of words, action of deeds, like a karma yogi. Because I think it says in that last paragraph, personal meditation on the master in its different forms ultimately contributes toward the release of the creative life of spiritual fulfillment. Meditation on the master is a meditation on the living ideal, which is the spiritual ideal, and not on the bare conception of perfection. Therefore, it generates that dynamic power that eventually enables the aspirant to bridge the gulf between theory and practice and unify the spiritual ideal with everyday activity in his own life. To live a life, right? To live a life inspired and illumined by the spiritual ideal as embodied in the master. I think that was the answer to the question of Doc Mama about what are the interrelationship of all these qualities. So it is an embodiment, the spiritual ideal as embodied by the master. The reason the avatar keeps coming back in human form and becomes the human being, because we know the Sadgurus act. Only the avatar becomes like us and undergoes physical and physical suffering, physical suffering. And because he's showing that despite all the physical suffering, you can still live like a good human being, following the spiritual ideal. So to live a life inspired and illumined by the spiritual ideal as embodied in the master is the culmination of all the forms of personal meditation. Now, we also have to understand that, I've been a victim of that. Like I said, you can get attached to your forms of personal meditation because all these are just techniques and tools, because the ultimate goal is manonash, to dissolve the ego. And that is why we have different techniques based on each individual's degree of consciousness and their own sanskaras. And Baba has clearly said that, at different times, in different birth cycles or incarnations, we work on different sanskaras and probably the forms of meditation can change. For me personally, I went from Hatha Yoga. I thought Hatha Yoga is everything. The body is the temple of the soul. You keep fit, you'll be fine. No. Then I did Kriya Yoga practice, which helped me in my subtle body. And then I did Vipassana, which helped me in my mental body. That is my own exploration, and I think that all these different types of meditation, Baba is just giving a summary how you can look at all these different types and keep pushing yourself. And I think one more thing I wanted to mention when Karthik was mentioning about the ABC, the table on page 229, and you compare it with page 217, where the table of general classification of the types of meditation, you're correct. Basically, the meditation, specialized meditation, which we are talking about. So, number A, meditation concerned with the object of experiences A, meditation concerned with the subject of experiences B, and the C should be meditation concerned with mental operations. Because when you go back to page 217, you will see it is categorized as 1, 2, and 3. So you're right, Karthik, that there has to be a section C, meditation concerned with mental operations. So in effect, the summary of this chapter, which is forms of personal meditation, which belongs as a subset to meditation concerned with the objects of experience. So right now, the 4 types of meditation that we have talked about is focusing on the master, concentrating on your guru or Ishta Devata or, Baba Avatar. And it is also, in a way, for me, the head, heart, and hands. Concentration and meditation on the divine qualities of a master is basically like the Jnana Yoga thing, because you're concentrating on the divine qualities. Then meditation of the heart is like Bhakti Yoga, and meditation of action, which should be action of deeds, is like Karma Yoga. So all 3 we are doing, head, heart, and hands, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, directly or indirectly, consciously or unconsciously in our daily life. So the essence for me has been that how do we lead a material life in a spiritual way? So that is why nobody is telling you have to leave your home, you should be a sadhu, a sannyasi, nothing. Right here is a perfect example is the spiritual ideal is the master's qualities, and you can actually imbibe this in your daily material life. Jai Baba.
Yes, nice
Thanks.
summary.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
Baba,
good
that
summary.
was very
Thank you.
helpful. Thank you.
So we'll go to part 6, specialized meditations that are impersonal. Distinction between personal and impersonal meditation. Part 5 was devoted to explanatory comments on those specialized meditations that are personal. This part will be devoted to those specialized meditations that are impersonal. It might be recalled that meditation is personal when it is concerned with a person, and impersonal when it is concerned with aspects of personality or something that falls outside the range of human personality, as it is commonly understood. In the table of enumerative classification given in part 5, the first 4 forms of meditation are personal and the remaining 8 forms are impersonal. Like the forms of personal meditation, the forms of impersonal meditation also individually deserve separate explanatory comments. Meditation on all forms of life. Man's attention has a tendency to be riveted on his own body or on other forms independent of the spirit they manifest. This leads to illusions, entanglements, and other complications. Hence arises the need for a type of meditation that will enable the aspirant to develop a proper perspective concerning the real status and meaning of the numerous forms and to cultivate a right attitude towards them. In this type of meditation, the aspirant acquires the constant habit of regarding all forms as equally the manifestation of the same one, all pervading life, and as nothing in themselves separately. This type of meditation aids disentanglement from the world of creation and further cultivation of the highest type of universal love, which regards the whole of humanity and all living creatures as members of an indivisible whole. So that's the type. Meditation regarding one's body. But the type of meditation concerned with the numerous forms of manifested life remains incomplete unless it is supplemented by another type of meditation that is concerned with one's own body. One's own body, gross, subtle, or mental, is like the bodies of others, a form of the one all pervading life. Nonetheless, consciousness is fixed on one's own bodies by an attachment so deep that it identifies itself with them. Continued thoughts of detachment concerning one's own life, one's own body, help emancipation of consciousness and the dawn of true self-knowledge. Meditation of this type is very fruitful for the aspirant. The gross, subtle, and mental bodies are all then regarded as cloaks that one can put on or off. Next one is meditation on formless and infinite aspect of God. The type of meditation concerned with the numerous forms of manifested life and the type of meditation concerned with one's own bodies are both preparations for the form of impersonal meditation in which an effort is made to withdraw consciousness from all the numerous forms of manifested life, including one's own bodies and consciousness, is centered on the formless and infinite aspect of God. In the initial phases, this form of impersonal meditation has to avail itself of some symbols of infinity. It is actually more helpful to start with some image that suggests and signifies infinity than the abstract idea of infinity. The mind may be made steady on an image of sky, ocean, or vast emptiness. But once a particular image is chosen, the aspirant should stick to it throughout the period of meditation and not allow it to be replaced by another image. From these symbols of infinity, complete and unlimited emptiness is difficult to imagine. However, the best symbol is that which one can most successfully bring before one's mind, is that which one can most successfully bring before one's mind. Even when unlimited emptiness is used to signify infinity, in this form of meditation, the aspirant is not supposed to arrive at complete blankness of mind. Such blankness involves the cessation of all mental activity and having absolutely no thoughts or ideas. But in this form of meditation, the mind tries to understand and realize the formless and infinite aspect of God by means of a significant symbol. Picturing infinity as being within. There is an important variation of this impersonal form of meditation. In it, the infinity one imagines is not mentally externalized as if it were an unlimited stretch of something outside the aspirant. It is more helpful to picture infinity as within the aspirant. After picturing infinity within, the aspirant should give himself the strong suggestion of his identity with infinity by mentally repeating, I am as infinite as the sky within, or I am as infinite as the ocean within, or I am as infinite as the emptiness within. It may be even more helpful to use the bare formula, I am the infinite within. And while mentally repeating this formula, to grasp and realize the significance of infinity through the image that has been chosen. It is not necessary to repeat the formula in so many words. It is enough to cling to the thought expressed in the formula. The I am infinite meditation may lead to a merging of the aspirant into the formless and infinite aspect of God. Some aspirants merge so completely that even if swarms of mosquitoes surround them, they do not hear them. Other aspirants may become restless or easily disturbed. They should not keep worrying about lack of success in meditation, but should tenaciously persist whether they experience merging or not. A relaxed position is helpful for merging. The final merging, however, is impossible except through the help of a perfect master. Okay.
It's about time to
Quest
stop
for
and to have thoughts
sure.
on this.
Yeah, any questions?
So
Any
Baba
thoughts?
still suggests to meditate on an object if we are aiming to meditate an impersonal aspect of God to start with.
Symbol, yeah.
Symbol. And then I missed the point. So later on, what are we supposed to do? Like an ocean or something like that, we have to think about it. But how does that later on lead us to infinite aspect of the God? So we have to, did Baba suggest that we should stick on to that, not changing the object, right?
Yeah,
I'm
he
not sure
said
what.
that, Raviji, but I think it will
Yeah.
transcend of its own. You will forget the object and then go into infinite. I think that's only for the time that is needed. That it is needed,
Mm.
That's what I got the message. Because you have to start somewhere
Yeah.
as a symbol. Yeah. It will wean off
Baba,
slowly.
I think one of the insights that I got when we read the last chapter, specialized meditation that are personal, which is dealing with concentration on the form of a master, which can be a god man, man god, avatar, or perfect master. And how does it relate to God speaks? Now, that was the question I came into my mind. So it is basically the personal form is state 2C, which is basically the drop soul, which goes through evolution, reincarnation, involution, reaches perfection and becomes a Jivan Mukta or a Sadguru. A Sadguru or an avatar is an embodied form of God, right? State 2C. So that is a personal form of meditation. Now, here on that paragraph in page 235, the subtitle Meditation on Formless and Infinite Aspect of God. So this clearly relates to state 2B, which is the eternal avataric infinite consciousness called Nirguna Nirakar form of God. Because God comes in two forms, the personal form of God and the formless aspect. Now, personal form of God, there are infinite numbers because it includes both avatars and Sadgurus. And of course, it also includes all the God realized beings. So all those people become personal forms of meditation. That is why in India, like they say in Hinduism, we have millions of gods. So imagine each one is a perfect master or a God realized soul on whom one is concentrating. But the impersonal form of meditation, the formless, of course, there is a transition state out here. Instead of focusing on the image of a human being, which is a subset of nature, which is both animate and inanimate. So you can take the rock, the Shiva's, Shiva Linga as an inanimate object, right? For me, the Shiva Linga is basically represents the formless into form. Why? Because matter becomes solid, liquid, or gaseous. Gas evaporates, you can't see. Liquid flows, solid stays. So the rock is the most fundamental aspect of the formless being represented in form. This I have not read, but this is my insight. So what is happening out here is that previously I had asked this question, who came first, the formless or the form? According to the God Speaks creation theme, naturally the formless came first because the eternal avataric infinite consciousness who descended into the first drop soul created the avatar. Correct? Avatar is the first drop soul who became God realized. And then avatar is God in human form because he becomes the messenger of God again and again. The same drop soul becomes different avatars. That is how the divine theme is created. So what we are seeing out here is, I think, to answer probably Ravi's question, how do we go from the personal form of God to looking at the animate, inanimate objects like, the five elements, sky, ocean, space, emptiness. In fact, when you go to the Vipassana practice, the first thing they tell you is leave everything at the doorstep, all your prior, images of God and stuff like that. Here, when you come for those 10 days, you should respect our teachings and you should not concentrate on your perfect master, guru, so on and so forth. It's very difficult. I can tell you that. It's impossible almost. But because the beauty about Buddhism, Vipassana, is that it is looking at the formless aspect. Similarly, Islam actually looking at the formless aspect of God. That is why we don't have a form, even though Muhammad is the prophet. But they are very clear, he's the messenger of God. He's not God. He's God in human form. Let's put it that way, because God needs a representative. That is why he's using the avatar. So what is interesting out here is that here we are given the option. I think even Baba has said that, because getting a personal guru is a very difficult because the teacher comes when the student is ready. So initially, what do? Like, we need to focus on the Ishta Devata. So Baba said, whatever religion you are in, you focus on the avatar of that particular religion, whether you're a Muslim or a Hindu or whatever. And then, rather than doing spiritual shopping and going around and meeting all these people, which is what I did, spiritual shopping, but that is okay because I had to go through that adventure. And people who are blessed with being born in a Baba family, they are doubly blessed because they don't have to do spiritual shopping. They are like, have a trust fund, you have like, the Ishtadevta right in your house, so you're not distracted, you just focus on the spiritual attributes of that particular avatar or the guru. But for most people, they are struggling, just like in my material life, I was struggling. What do I want to do in life, So I think that what is interesting out here is that this whole different states of how we try to meditate on, we are all looking for a hero to, what I call as a spiritual mentor. For me, Baba, in a very clinical sense, is my eternal spiritual and material mentor, a guide who's going to help me, is helping me in this life. And hopefully, if I don't get liberated, maybe next life he'll always be there, So we are all looking for that mentor, And I think that here we are transitioning from the image of God, which is the subject. Now here we are going to the object. Sorry, the object. The guru is also an object. Now from that we are going to animate and inanimate objects, or inanimate objects, the 5 elements, and then ultimately it's emptiness, which is basically the formless aspect. So these are just different, I think explorations, or in our own sadhana. Intuitively, we will know that I think I need to now work on something else, Jai Baba.
May we all get that just hint and move on, and may our mentor help us get there. Does that kind of answer your question, Ravi? Ravi is not reacting. Okay, so I'll continue.
Yeah, I listen to it, but yeah, I meditate and I focus on Meher Baba, the physical form of Meher Baba. I'm happy with that. Just because the topic came, that's why my thoughts went that way. But I'm set with my master. Jai Baba.
Yep. Jai Baba. So quest for agent of action is the next one. The forms of meditation thus far explained are predominantly concerned with the impersonal objects of experience, but some impersonal forms of meditation are concerned with the subject of experience. One such important form of meditation consists in ceaselessly pressing the query, who is it that does all these things? The aspirant finds himself thinking, I sleep, walk, eat, and talk. I see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. I think, feel, and desire, and so forth. The searching question this form of meditation is concerned with is, who is this I? The soul does not experience any of these things. The soul does not sleep, walk, eat, or talk, see, hear, touch, taste, or smell, think, feel, or desire. Who then is the agent? The source of all these activities has to be discovered, and the mystery of all life has to be explained. There is a power that does all these things, and one must know oneself to be different from the power and be able to use it with detachment. The aspirant thinks that he walks. It is really his body that walks. The aspirant thinks that he sees, hears, thinks, feels, or desires. It is really his mind that does all these things through some convenient medium. As soul, the aspirant is everywhere and really does nothing. But it is not enough to think that as soul, he is everywhere and really does nothing. He must know this. So With that, we go to the next one, which is
This is
considering
a very
one's.
profound.
Yeah,
The
it's a
quest
very
for
profound
the
one.
agent of action. This is a very profound
Yeah.
inquiry. So to come to a
Yes.
final conclusion, he must know this. If you steadfastly think on these lines, we will get to know something. That's a
Yes.
way of meditation. Very well explained. Jai Baba.
Very well explained, and it's an important one, a very key one, like the para starts.
Jai Baba, there is also my insight is here that quest for the agent of action, the searching question, this form of meditation is concerned with is who is this I?
Yes.
It is the same question as who am I? The soul does not experience any of these things. The soul does not sleep, walk, eat, or talk, see, hear, touch, taste, smell, so on, right? So there is one kind of definition about the soul self, okay? Because everything is coming from the self, animate and inanimate objects. But the last line, as soul, the aspirant is everywhere and really does nothing. But it is not enough to think that as soul, he is everywhere and really does nothing. He must know this. Who must know this? The consciousness of the soul, not just the soul. So again, here the emphasis is about the consciousness, the individual consciousness of every drop soul has to know, which is basically the Satchitananda, infinite power, knowledge, bliss. So this is the whole game, from unconscious divinity to conscious divinity, that this infinite knowledge, power, bliss is latent in every drop soul, irrespective of whether you are in whatever kingdoms, except the degree of consciousness determines whether you're still stuck in the reincarnation phase, or you're stuck in the involution phase, or you are transcended from sixth plane to seventh plane to super consciousness state, Mahachaitanya. He must know this. Jai Baba.
Yep. Thank you. So the next one is considering oneself a witness. Knowledge of the soul may also be approached through a form of meditation in which the aspirant tries to realize himself as merely a witness of all physical and mental happenings. After a person wakes up from a dream, he realizes that he was not a real agent of the actions in the dream, but that he was merely a witness of them. If the aspirant persistently practices considering himself a witness of all physical and mental happenings that he experiences in wakefulness as well as in dreams, he soon develops utter detachment, which brings freedom from all worries and sufferings connected with worldly events. This form of meditation is intended to lift the aspirant out of the bonds of time and to secure for him immediate relief from the fret and fever connected with the diverse expressions of limited energy. As a witness, the soul remains aloof from all the events in time, and the results of actions do not bind it. All this has to be experienced and not merely thought about. Importance of stilling mind. The forms of meditation concerned with the subject of experience, however, suffer from the handicap that the true subject of experience can never be the object of thought or meditation in the ordinary sense. Thus, these forms of meditation can at best take the aspirant very close to self-knowledge, which can only dawn in its full glory when the domain of the mind is completely traversed. Some impersonal forms of specialized meditation are therefore concerned with the mental operations, and they ultimately aim at stilling the mind. Writing down thoughts. To acquire control over thoughts is to become fully conscious of what they are. They have to be attended to before they are controlled. In ordinary introspection, it is seldom possible for the beginner to devote adequate attention to all the shadowy thoughts that pass through the mind. It is helpful, therefore, for the aspirant occasionally to write down all his thoughts as they come and then to inspect them carefully at leisure. This process is different from writing planned essays. Thoughts are allowed to arise without any direction or restraint, so that even repressed elements from the subconscious mind have access to the conscious mind. Observation of mental operations. In a more advanced stage, an intensive awareness of the mental process. In a more advanced stage, an intensive awareness of the mental processes can take place while thoughts appear in the consciousness, and writing them down becomes unnecessary. Observations of mental operations should be accompanied by critical evaluation of one's thoughts. Thoughts cannot be controlled except through an appreciation of their value or lack of value. When the diverse thoughts that assail the mind are critically evaluated and the internal stirrings of sanskaras are faced, understood, and taken for what they are worth, the mind is freed from all obsessions and compulsions in relation to them.
Karthik, I just wanted to make an observation.
Sure.
See, I think we can compare the thoughts with clouds, like passing clouds. So, of course, we have around 70, 80,000 thoughts in a day. So, of course, writing them down is good, but they're like passing clouds and we can just observe them. I think that could be one way out. This is what thought comes to my mind. I thought I'll share with the group.
So I was also thinking about the same, in the sense the challenge in writing thoughts would be quite literally the pace of the thoughts, right? So
Yes.
thank you for
No.
sharing the same thing. Yeah.
So it just
Maybe.
incidentally happens that it's raining so heavily and and there are clouds. So I was just thinking that thoughts are like the clouds. Of course, writing them down is difficult, but perhaps the most significant thoughts which affect our thought, word, or deeds. Of course, deeds thoughts don't get converted into deeds immediately, but I think probably writing it down would be one. I think could be a good process, and as different strokes for different folks is what the general philosophy which Kama has told us. I think it all depends on each individual, but this is what I came to my mind. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba,
Writing,
just a
yeah.
point aside, can artificial intelligence work in this area to sort out all the thoughts?
Yeah,
Mama,
writing. Yeah.
that's an area for
Writing.
research.
Yeah, writing your thoughts actually. There are techniques people I have heard about is you give away those thoughts, because meditation you will get a lot of thoughts, but the thoughts of having done something wrong to anybody or having been wronged by somebody, forgiving them, you just put those thoughts on your diary, then you relieve yourselves of your thoughts and they stop bothering you as much as they would otherwise. The one of the during my diabetes I attended that program of Freedom from Diabetes in Pune. They had a phase where they wanted you to write your thoughts early in the morning, and you one exercise would come that you write, forgive everybody who has done wrong to you, and just put all your thoughts on your personal diary. And that actually, when you do that on a focused way, it relieves you actually. Write a letter to your mother is something that you could not, or your father, that you could not communicate with him, and then all the life has passed, just write it down. So it gives you that relief from anybody
whom you took something from but you did not return, so these kinds of things. So actually it was very relieving. So I
Sanjay
think
Baba used to ask
yeah.
people to write letter to him.
Yeah. Yes.
Right,
So
for example, it's
I
very
think these
powerful.
thoughts would stop bothering you as much otherwise. Yeah. So it's a good idea. Jai Baba.
Very
To add,
interesting.
Sanjay said,
Yeah.
I think he's correct, because I think if people have read that book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, one of the biggest, conflicts that happen between partners, spouses, is the miscommunication. And of course, behind everything is sanskaras, as we all know. And one of the things is about actually writing a letter to each other. Whenever you have a problem or a challenge which you can't express verbally, it's good to write it down, and you can resolve many of the conflicts that happens in a relationship. And also, I think that writing down thoughts, like especially having a diary, is also very therapeutic. One is, of course, because we don't have good memories. Not everybody has a good memory. So writing down your, at the end of the day, a diary about, different happenings. One is to keep track of what one is doing. But more or less, I believe keeping a personal diary helps in our own spiritual progress, both spiritual and material, and I think it is very therapeutic, as I said. But also observation of mental operations. When people, you guys have asked me what is Vipassana like and all that. Just to give you a short answer, it's this particular subtitle, Observation of Mental Operations. In a more advanced stage, an intensive awareness of the mental processes can take place while thoughts appear in the consciousness, and writing them down becomes unnecessary. Observations of mental operations should be accompanied by critical evaluation of one's thoughts. So again, this is Vivek and Vairagya. Critical evaluation. How do you critically evaluate one's thoughts? Unless you understand the laws of nature, the laws of matter, the laws of spirit, which is given in God Speaks and Discourses and so on and so forth. The Vivek and Vairagya is very important. So what you experience in Vipassana, the thing they say is observe, don't react to pleasant sensations. Observe, don't react to unpleasant sensations. Observe, don't react to no sensations. Because our body, the 5 physical sensations of touch, taste, sound, smell, sight are always subconsciously, influencing us. The other sensation is the mental sensation of thought, which is very difficult. As it says in the next line, a way is thus prepared for meditation that attempts to make the mind blank, which is one of the most difficult things to achieve. And what I learned from Vipassana is don't try to control your thoughts, because then you are coming under the Newton's laws of third law, action begets reaction. So instead of using the word control, I use the word awareness, self-awareness. So once you become an observer, which is what the last subtitle we read about was, considering oneself a witness. Do you want to be a player who's being observed as an object? Or do you want to be an audience, a pure observer witness who's watching this whole game of life? You become the subject. So this is where you become, where the observer, the subject, the observed, the object, and the observation becomes one. This is a form of nirvana, actually. You don't have to reach there. When you reach this state where the mind, where you're completely living in the eternal moment, because when you talk about the present, it's about present, past, and future. But there are situations we all have experienced, consciously or unconsciously, mostly unconsciously, the moment of being. And that is why I believe that when Baba says, I've come here to awaken, which means you're already self-realized, but because of sanskaras, evolutionary sanskaric impressions, you're not able to experience that state of being or bliss in the waking state. That is the challenge, So that is why my whole emphasis is not about love. It is about how to dissolve the ego, because love is already there in the background, It's like the white screen, in the movie theater. It's only the movie is changing all the time. So I think considering oneself a witness is itself is a beautiful thing, Like when I used to go to Amsterdam, I would just sit in the cafeteria and just watch people, You see all these couples going on their bicycles. They're so eco-friendly. And there's so many interesting stuff, just sitting there in a cafeteria, on like whatever boulevard or whatever. So I think that once you become a pure observer witness, you're already done, Jai Baba.
Yep.
Yes, karma,
That's the
you are
most
already
powerful.
done.
Yes. Hopefully, more of us will get done from this group as well over this birth, or hopefully, or at least a few births, veiled or unveiled. Baba will decide. Right. So let's continue and finish this chapter. It's just got a few paras. Making the mind blank. Kama was just reading that line. A way is thus prepared for meditation that attempts to make the mind blank, which is one of the most difficult things to achieve. The mind is without any ideas during sleep, but consciousness is then in abeyance. If during wakefulness the mind has the idea of becoming blank, it is thinking about that idea and is far from being blank. However, this difficult trick of making the mind blank becomes possible by an alternation between two incompatible forms of meditation so that the mind is caught between concentration and distraction. Alternating between concentration and distraction. Thus, the aspirant can concentrate on the master for 5 minutes, and then, as the mind is getting settled on the form of the master, he can steady his mind for the next 5 minutes in the impersonal meditation in which the thought is, I am infinite. The disparity between the two forms of meditation can be emphasized by keeping the eyes open during meditation on the form of the master and closing the eyes during impersonal meditation. Such alternation helps in making the mind blank. But to be successful, both forms of meditation have to be seriously pursued. Though, after 5 minutes, there is to be a changeover to another type of meditation, there should be no thought of it while the first type is going on. There is no distraction unless there is concentration. And when a changeover is effected, there should be no thought of the first type of meditation. The distraction has to be as complete as the previous concentration. When there is a quick alternation between concentration and distraction, mental operations are, as it were, cut through by a saw that goes backward and forward. It's a very interesting approach he has suggested, the approach of 5-minute alternation on two things. And I don't know if any of us have tried this earlier, but this is something very interesting. Obviously, not easy to put in practice, but it's something that's very interesting. The last subtitle is Truth Reflected in the Tranquil Mind. The disappearance of mental operations of all types contributes towards making the mind absolutely still without allowing consciousness to fall into abeyance. All thoughts that appear in the mind of the aspirant are forms of perturbation and have their origin in the momentum of stored sanskaras. The agitation of the mind can disappear only when the aspirant can so control his mind that all thoughts can be ruled out at will. Only in complete internal silence is truth found. When the surface of the lake is still, it reflects the stars. When the mind is tranquil, it reflects the nature of the soul as it is. Jai Baba. So that brings us to the end of part 6.
Jai
The
Baba,
next
Jai
one
Baba.
is
Jai Baba.
Nirvikalpa.
Karthik, you were just talking about veiled or unveiled. So
Yeah.
last night I was reading Glow, the latest summer edition that has come, and there is a diary before Baba went into silence. So on 12th of May 1925, there is a message which rhymes that what you said just now. Baba said, "You eat to maintain your body, with which you do all different actions. The food is reduced to juices and then turned into blood. You know this, but you cannot experience it with sight or feeling. Likewise, the spiritual advancement of the connected ones is going on, but the parties concerned do not know it by sight or feeling. They are quite unaware of their advancement, but they are advancing with certainty. Advancing with certainty. That's the word. The more one keeps oneself along a Sadguru, the better for it is whether there is a connection or not a connection. Or not. That is the word. Yeah. Jai Meher Baba.
Wow.
So be rest assured. Advancing with certainty. Baba has already said. So don't worry about all that. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Jai Baba. Thank you for that gem. By the way, there's a little story on the glow of summer. I left it in a hotel 2 weeks back, and I'm trying to get another copy. I took it to read on my trip, and then I think I left it behind. So I should get it from my neighbor. Any other thoughts before we wrap up? By the way,
Must be left for a
What's
new
that?
soul. Yeah.
I
Must
hope
be
so.
left for
I
somebody to
truly-
get in touch with Baba. Jai Baba.
I truly hope so. Yeah.
Baba's working. Yeah.
Let's think that's what happened. Yeah. So I know we are out of time, and Ashok wanted a chat about Teams and just exploring some features here. So I'm happy to spend that. I can stop recording now, and I can spend some time and answer some questions, and also.
Yes,